G'day everybody and welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name is Sky and I should be at the Penguin Parade right now getting ready to talk to woodsman Ray Mears about the world's smallest and cutest little penguins. But instead, here in Victoria, Australia, we are staying safe and staying home right now. We'll be back to our nightly live streams as soon as we possibly can. But until then, please enjoy this episode from last year. Make sure you watch till about halfway through when there's a bit of a cheeky interaction between a wallaby and one of our little penguins. Stay safe and we'll see you soon, everybody. Bye.
Hi everyone and welcome to another night of Live Penguin TV. My name is Jordan, I'm your host tonight, and this evening I'm joined by Michael. Michael, come on in. So today we are going to be watching the smallest species of penguin, the little penguin, waddling their way home over a very, very high tide. So they've only got a very short stretch of beach to cross tonight, back to their burrows here on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. And we're joined by Michael tonight. So Michael, say hello and let us know what you're going to be up to this evening.
Good evening everyone, thanks for tuning in. Tonight I'll be checking out the YouTube and the Facebook, so send all your questions in. We don't have any as such yet, so yep, try and stump Jordan with all your hard penguin questions.
Or not too hard, hopefully. No, love, lots of new good questions. Thank you, Michael.
Right.
So at any point throughout the stream, guys, please do chuck your questions in the comments of Facebook and or YouTube, and we'll do our best to answer a few questions live on the air. If you are a fellow regular waddle watcher, you'll probably know that I could talk for many, many hours about these little penguins and not take a breath. So I'll make sure I do stop occasionally and ask Michael for a question from the Facebook or YouTube comments. But if we don't get to your question, please don't stress. We do have a wonderful team of penguin rangers going through the Facebook comments and answering all of your questions, giving you a personalised answer. So if you don't answer them live on the air, you will get an answer in the next 24 hours or so. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to answer questions on YouTube, so we'll definitely be looking at the questions on YouTube tonight, but also on Facebook. So keep tuning in, keep asking those questions, and yeah, if you don't get the question answered live on the air, if you're desperate to have your question asked, make sure you tune in night after night and keep asking those questions, because that's the best way to get them answered on the air. Now, if you are a local Melburnian or a Victorian, you'll notice that we've had a fair bit of rain, and in some areas of the state we've had some thunderstorms. So I think we actually have already had some penguins wash up at the water's edge. So before we do anything else, I think it was off the far east side, which is what Sonia will be counting tonight. So you can see Sonia in her high-vis jacket. I'll just scroll back over to her, and she is going to be looking through a pair of binoculars and counting the penguins kind of off this far side. Come on, camera, let's focus in. And then, so you can see there's a few little ramps off in the sand dunes that help the penguins get into the colony. It helps them access them over here. In fact, yep, I think I've just spotted and there's a wallaby on our camera highway, on our penguin highway just over there. Oh my god, it's all happening tonight. So you can see there's a nice little raft of penguins. So a group of penguins in the ocean is called a raft, and soon they will be crossing the beach and be transforming into a waddle. But it's still a little bit light here on Phillip Island for the penguins to make their dangerous dash across the beach, because crossing the beach at the end of the day is the most dangerous part of a penguin's day or journey throughout the 24 hours. Because out in the ocean, their beautiful blue feathers on their back help keep them camouflaged against any aerial predators, so any predatory birds such as swamp harriers, sea eagles, Pacific gulls. But when the sun sets at around about this time every night, the penguins know that it'll be safe to start waddling across, and they won't get swooped down on by those birds because they've returned to their nest. They've gone to bed for the night. But these guys, they aren't too keen just yet to cross the beach. It's still a little bit light, it's still a little bit scary. And especially over at this section of the beach, you can see there's lots of beautiful golden sand, and there's literally nowhere to run and there's nowhere to hide when they start crossing the beach off to the east side. So they have to make 100% sure that they think it's dark enough and safe enough to start crossing the beach. So I did mention we have Sonia counting penguins off the east side tonight, but we also have Ranger Beck, who is up in the skybox counting the penguins in between this little white box, and in between that West Stand and all the way to Penguins Plus. And I think Michael has heard something from Beck.
I think there was some penguins seen coming in at Penguins Plus, so we might head over there.
Excellent. So we've got some penguins that have decided to start making their way in Penguins Plus, and we've got quite a clear night tonight, so hopefully we'll be able to even see a few rafts coming in. So I haven't seen anything just yet, and in fact there's something that you have all probably been very, very anxious to know the answer to, and that was how many penguins crossed the beach last night. So I think Michael has the magic number. Michael, let us know how many penguins that was.
So at 8:25 last night, we had 1,217 penguins cross the beach.
1,217 penguins. I saw in the comments last night there are a few people who were making some estimates as how many penguins were going to cross the beach. Is that anything over there? No, it doesn't look like it. Just some seagulls. So 1,217 was the number of penguins that crossed the beach in 50 minutes last night. So 50 minutes is how long we count the penguins for. So we usually get similar numbers every single night. I think the night before last night was 1,000. What was it?
1,178.
There we go, 1,178 penguins. So they're being pretty consistent, and I'm thinking that they'll have a very similar number coming in tonight. But I would love to hear in the comments how many penguins you think will be crossing the beach tonight. Now, we did hear that there were some penguins. Is it just me, or can I not see them? Let us know in the comments if you've spotted them, and if you have, tell us where. We've got a very high tide tonight, so it's going to be really, really tricky to count the penguins. There's not a long stretch of beach like when there's a low tide to count the penguins and double count them to make sure you're accurate. So Beck will be very, very focused tonight, and if she is able to, she might be able to let us know how many numbers in each wattle or each group there is crossing the beach, but she also might be very, very busy counting, so we may not get an answer from her. So hang in there, and if we do hear something, Michael will be sure to pass on the answer. So I haven't spotted any penguins just yet, but I'm hoping that we might still be able to see some rafts of penguins. Okay, so oh, is that something? I can see some splashing. I think that might be a raft just over here. So a group of penguins. Yep, here they come. That looks like they are making a beeline straight for us. You can see them porpoising, getting ready to start making their way in. Here they come. It's a nice big one. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to count the penguins when they're in the water. So that's what we start doing when they are finally crossing the beach at the end of the night. So we'll definitely be watching these guys as they surf their way into shore. You just got a call about this.
Just said there's a huge raft coming in.
I think that's these guys. And while these guys are slowly starting to make that, well, it's actually probably quite quick now, they will be making a very special sound called a huck. Sounds like huck, 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 huck. And that's a little location call. It's saying, is there anyone else out there? Can we cross the beach yet? Is there anyone else out there who wants to join us? Are we ready? Oh my goodness, look at them all. They've been doing some very, very good hucking, these penguins. They're very organised, coming in at the same time tonight. So, oh my lordy. And some of them are just like, oh no, we don't want to cross just yet. They're just gathering themselves, they're composing themselves and getting ready to make that very short but very scary, dangerous dash across the beach. And look at them as they get buffeted around in the waves. Another thing that people have been putting in the comments recently is how many penguins they think are in each group or in each wattle. So let us know how many penguins you think are in this wattle when they start crossing the beach. And again, if we are able to hear a number from Ranger Beck, we'll be able to see who's closest. But with such a huge group, I'm sure there's going to be lots of penguins crossing the beach, and with such a short stretch of beach, they are not wasting any time whatsoever. She might not be able to get those numbers to us, but I think you guys are pro penguin counters by now if you've been watching this regularly. So I'd be interested to see how many penguins you think are in this little wattle over here. All right, they're well and truly over the halfway mark. I think the beach is only like 2 or 3 meters tonight. So I think that will be a definite start to the count tonight. And we're going to be watching these little penguins for about 20 minutes or so. But again, anyone who has watched me do the live stream before, my 20 minutes usually turns into 25 or 30. So hope you're ready for that, everyone. Alrighty, look at them go. We can see that they're nice and camouflaged against the rocks just over here. So their beautiful blue feathers blend in with the basaltic rocks. And do you remember just before when we were watching the penguins a little bit further along the beach that had that beautiful golden sand? There was literally no rocks for them to camouflage on. So the penguins feel very, very safe coming up just over here because they know that they blend in with the rocks. And if there is any predators that are out kind of from a pre-sleep or a pre-midnight snack, they're less likely going to be spotted here on the rocks. Let me zoom out just a touch because there is just so many penguins. And I think they might have come in 1 or 2 minutes earlier than last night. We had a start at 8:25, I think it might have been last night. So they're very prompt, these penguins. And some of them have decided to hang out on the rocks. They're not in any hurry at all.
I think Beck just said there was about 180 in that raft.
Ooh, 180. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Beck. That was a very, very big waddle to count for sure. And what a legend for being able to radio that through. She is a pro, our Beck. So let's see if we can follow some of these guys over here. We've got these guys hanging out on the resting rocks, taking their time, catching their breath. And I wonder where these guys are going. I think that very shortly we'll be able to see some penguins. Don't go onto the platform. I can't see you or talk about you then. Pesky penguins. Okay, we've got one loner just over here. Are we stopping for a bit of a rest before we enter the Penguin Highway? Although it looks like they are just about to start coming around the corner. Oh, they're going very, very quickly. Look at them go. This is top speed here, everyone. You would definitely have to be jogging to keep up with these penguins, or at least the first ones. It looks like they might have slowed down a little bit now. On their way home with a big belly full of fish, although it's more like a double chin at the moment. Not fat shaming the penguins, I promise. Oh, and we've got a wallaby friend just over here as well. Let's have a look at the wallaby. Now the wallaby is, it's not a threat to the penguins, it's just a penguin neighbour. So these guys are kind of like the little cousin of a kangaroo, a little bit darker, a little bit smaller, and these wallabies, the swamp wallabies, have a little white tip on the end of their tail and they just eat grass and leaves and things, whereas the penguins, they're pescatarian, they only eat seafood, so they live quite happily. And I'm just gonna focus in on this wallaby over here who's sitting right next to a very beautiful mortgage-free penguin box, and it looks like this wallaby might be snacking on some bower spinach here. It's nice, kind of like succulent salty leaves, this one, that you can't eat too much of, but they are definitely edible. Alright, let us now bring it back to the penguins. I wonder if there's still a few hanging around on the rocks just over here. There's some more around in the corner. Let's now watch these guys just over here. So before I talk too much more about penguins, I just want to stop and say happy NAIDOC week to everyone. If you've been watching the last couple of nights and if you've been paying attention in the news and in social media and things like that, you'll know in Australia it is NAIDOC week, and that's a week that we celebrate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture. It started on the 8th, so on Sunday. So a big thank you to everyone who has said happy NAIDOC week in the comments and in the past, and who's let us know the lands on which they're joining us from, the names of the traditional custodians of the First Nations people, whether that's in Australia or whether that's overseas. We're really, really grateful that you're showing so much respect and support for the traditional custodians of the land where you're joining us, you're joining from today. And we are here on Bunurong land here on Phillip Island, and the Bunurong people are the traditional custodians of Malau, a name that they give Phillip Island. And these people, the Bunurong, have been coming over to Phillip Island for over 10,000 years, living very peacefully and very sustainably with the land, and were the first people to actually see the penguins crossing the beach before European settlement back in 1770. So I would like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and again encourage all of you who are watching tonight to let us know in the comments who the traditional custodians are of the land that you're on, and even the traditional name given by the custodians as well. And I would also like to say that I'll let you know that this NAIDOC week, it has been postponed. It's originally meant to be in July, but it was rescheduled in November this year so that we could actually celebrate it out of semi-out of lockdown. And the theme for NAIDOC week is always was, always will be, and that refers to the land that we are on here in Australia. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land because sovereignty was never ceded. So really, really important that we pay our respects to the traditional custodians and recognise them as the rightful owners of the land here in Australia. So again, thank you so much for that, everyone. Let us now have a little bit of a look. No, I want to jump back out into the ocean. Although it's a little bit cold, I don't really want to do that at the moment, and see if we can see any more rafts starting to pop in. They were quite clear a little bit earlier. Can anyone see any just in the shallows here? Oh, in fact, I think I just spotted one a little bit further up. What you're looking for, oh, look at all the moths and bugs that are flying around the lights. You're looking for little dark shadows in the water. Yep, there we go. And looks like there's another one or maybe even two behind them. I'll just move the camera a little bit. It's another nice big raft that's slowly starting to make their way in. So come on, camera, let's focus a touch. It struggles a little bit as it gets a little bit darker. Come on. You've got this. Look at me talking to the technology. I like to think it helps. Oh, yep, there we go. Definitely another big raft coming in. So everyone, I did say to please keep your questions and comments coming through in the Facebook and YouTube because Michael will be busily on the lookout looking for any great questions to pass over to me from during the live stream. So it's having a little bit trouble focusing as it gets a bit darker and zooming all the way in. So we might go for a question as we're waiting for this raft to make their way in, Michael. Let's have a question from the audience.
All right. So we've got one question. How do the lights that we have at the Penguin Parade affect the penguins' eyes?
Yeah, so how do the lights here at the Penguin Parade affect the eye? So I did mention a little bit earlier that the penguins are waiting for it to get quite dark so that they feel that it's safe enough to cross the beach with any aerial predators starting to kind of flying out and about. But these lights are turned on a little bit later and they've got a special red filter which the penguins can't see very well, and also a lot of other predatory birds can't see as well either. And even though the beach here on Phillip Island is lit up, all those predatory birds still have to make their way home before it gets too dark because they also need the light. Oh, where have we got? Yeah, there we go. They also need to see the light, the natural light, to be able to make their way home to their nest so that they're not stranded anywhere on the ground and they might be subject to predation either. So here we go, I've got some starting to come out of the water now. So yeah, we only have the lights on here for 50 minutes, 50, while we're counting the penguins. That goes into part of the largest and longest running penguin survey in the world. But yeah, penguins don't see very well in the red colour spectrum. They see very, very well in blue and green light, which enables them to dive up to 70 metres out in the ocean to find their food and be able to see food, see pilchards, anchovies, squid, jellyfish, all that yummy stuff out there, as well as evade their predators as well. So while we can see the light quite clearly here at the Penguin Parade, the penguins can't actually see it very well. They know that there's some kind of light there, but it's not as clear as what we can see it because their eyes can't detect lights in the red and yellow spectrum. And when you come to visit us here at the Penguin Parade, you will notice that they're all hiding behind the vegetation over here, which is all habitat for the penguin, so we're not going to chop it down. Yeah, so they know that there's some kind of light, but it's not as clear or as wouldn't be damaging for the penguins' eyes. There's been lots of studies on the penguins to see if they like the areas that have been lit up compared to not. And I read a research paper, I think it was earlier this year, that showed that the penguins actually preferentially chose to go up pathways where there was this kind of red filtered light because they could see a lot easier. They can see in the dark, but not very, very well. So when a pathway is lit up for them, they can see if there's any obstacles, if there's any danger or any predator that's getting ready to meet them up ahead. So they actually prefer the lit up pathways. So yeah, really, really good question. I know it was very, very involved, but it is for that reason, because penguins are so sensitive to kind of blue light, or in the kind of very light blue spectrum. We ask that when you do come to visit us at the Penguin Parade that you make sure you're not taking any photos or videos, even without a flash. We unfortunately, when we've allowed photography in the past, there's just been too many people taking photos with the flash, which is as I said, the penguins' eyes are very, very sensitive to this light, and it disorients them. It takes away their night vision a little bit, and it stresses them out. So we prefer you to take photos and videos with your memories rather than risking a flash going off by taking a photo, or if someone else sees you with your phone, they might be encouraged to take a photo with a flash as well. So when you come to visit us here at the Penguin Parade, please keep phones and cameras in your pockets. Oh, it looks like we've got a wallaby, even though I know they are incredibly cute, and of course you want to take photos of them. Just want to take you to the Penguin Highway, and it looks like we've got a few penguins, 2 penguins. Oh, there's 3 penguins that are going the opposite way. And if you have been, oh, are you getting turned around as well? The penguins that were originally coming up the highway have gone, hang on a minute, maybe I want to go that way as well. These penguins going the opposite way are what we call shell gritters. So they're female penguins, and they're going to lay some eggs, 2 little eggs that are roughly the size of small chicken eggs, and they'll be laying those in the next 4 to 5 days or so. So they'll be heading down to the beach to look for little bits of seashells to nibble on and get some calcium for their eggshells. So they've been waiting in their burrows all day where it's nice and safe. They're staying out away from any predators, and they're making sure that when the sun sets, they can head down to the beach and get that shell grit as well. Now it looks like our wallaby friend is kind of having a bit of a say hello. Did you see that? The penguin just told off the wallaby. Take that, wallaby. See, the penguins are really, really tough. I wish I could watch that again. I'm definitely going to have to watch and go back tonight. But this penguin, who's hanging out at the back of the wallaby, was not giving this wallaby the time of day. It's like, this is my home. You stay away. I wonder if that's his girlfriend behind. Maybe he's showing off a little bit. Or maybe it's got chicks or eggs inside its burrow nearby. Did you get to rewatch it? Yeah. Michael just went, oh, look at it. So the penguins can definitely hold their own. But again, a wallaby isn't going to be a threat to the penguins because they only eat grass and things like that. And as you see, a penguin will definitely tell off a wallaby, and it definitely told it to move along. So they're pretty cool little critters. But again, if you are coming to join us here on Phillip Island, please, we're really, really excited to be able to welcome you back very, very shortly. Actually, tomorrow we are going to be open at the Penguin Parade 7 days a week, and we only have a maximum capacity of 50 people. I just wanted to see if there's any more rafts. So it's getting a little bit hard to see the darker it gets, and with all those bugs flying around. Let's go back to the rocks and see what they're doing over here. So yeah, we only have 50 people allowed at the Penguin Parade, so please make sure you book in advance. I think we are booked out for the first couple of days at least with 50 people. Everyone's coming out of lockdown and wants to come and see penguins, and you know what, I do not blame you in the slightest, but of course we don't want you rocking up just to find that there's no tickets available. So please check in advance and book online, and we'll make sure that you're not disappointed here at the door. But there's lots of other wonderful attractions here on Phillip Island that you can spend your days exploring. So Phillip Island Nature Parks, the organisation that manages the Penguin Parade, also looks after the Koala Conservation Reserve, which is looking after a few of our bushfire affected koalas. So you can go and stroll along the boardwalks and hang out with some beautiful fluffy koalas up in the gum trees, up in the eucalyptus trees. You can also visit Churchill Island Heritage Farm, which is kind of towards New Haven, so the other end of the island, and kind of take a step back in time and see lots of wonderful farm animals and learn about the history of Phillip Island and Churchill Island as well. And by going to all of these sites and buying tickets to these attractions, you're going towards our ongoing conservation, education and research projects, because Phillip Island Nature Parks, the organisation that runs all these places, we're a non-for-profit conservation organisation, which means any profits we get go directly into the conservation work that we do. So personally, a little bit earlier today, I was out with Megan, one of our live stream hosts, and Paula, a research technical officer, collecting penguin poo. And I'll tell you a little bit more about exactly what I was doing today, because I've got a few fun facts and fun stories to tell you. But Michael, let us know what you have been doing over the last couple of days or last couple of weeks in regards to our conservation work.
So in the last couple of weeks, I've been out helping with the revegetation team, replanting habitat areas on Churchill Island, so where there's a bird sanctuary there, so getting areas where it's pest species of weeds, so we're just getting rid of weeds, and then we're planting native to this area plants, so yeah, that's been pretty interesting. It's
Lovely.
been nice getting out on the field with.
So while Michael was talking about revegetation, I just wanted to draw your attention, I think I talked about this on Monday, I wanted to draw your attention to some of the planting that Megan and I did a little bit earlier in the year, and you can see next to these penguin boxes over here, we've got, looks like some little kind of milk cartons, and inside those are some beautiful native plants, some rhagodia, which is sea berry saltbush, and we're hoping that these kind of bushes, just like the bower spinach off to the left, we've got a penguin out the front of this burrow, are going to slowly start growing over these nest boxes and provide a little bit more shade for when we get a really, really hot summer, so it's not quite as hot inside these penguin burrows. So who are you out here? Are you just chilling? Just wanted to say, I think all the chicks in this area have fledged. This one looks like it's got all brand new feathers, so it kind of looks like it's showing off a little bit. It's kind of puffing the chest. It's got the flippers outstretched. Looking beautiful. I'd say that's probably a male or a female guarding its burrow at the moment. But yeah, we do a lot of revegetation and weed removal here on Phillip Island, here at the nature park. So we monitor and we look after about 20% of the land. So if you're thinking about some of the things that you can do at home to help protect penguins and local wildlife in your area, jump on the website of your local council and have a bit of a look at what some of the key Indigenous species are of the area and some of the key weed species, because you might find that you actually have some of them in your backyard. So I know I've dug out my fair share of agapanthus because they are quite an invasive weed, and also blackberry as well, because they tend to take over the natural habitat, which takes away food, it takes away shelter for the native wildlife, whether that's penguins, whether it's birds, whether it's any kind of animal. And yeah, replacing that with some of the indigenous native species of the area, that will definitely help make your garden more beautiful and more environmentally safe for the birds, the bees, and the other wonderful animals that you have all around you as well. So I highly recommend jump on council websites and find out a little bit more about the different types of weeds and native plants in your area, because the more you plant native plants and get rid of any weed species, that makes our job a little bit easier, because they're not escaping into the wild here on Phillip Island. Let us now jump over here and have a little bit of a look and see what these guys are doing just now. So I think we've probably only got about 5 or so minutes left of the live stream tonight, and it always goes so quickly, but I've still got more to say, so again, it's probably going to go for another 5 or 10 minutes. Sorry everyone, I've barely got through all the things that I have to say. And I thought we'd just focus on these guys and see exactly what they're doing, and we might even go to another question from the audience, everyone. So again, keep those questions coming in, and if we don't answer your questions live on the air, we will definitely make sure that we can, on Facebook, we will be answering your questions within about 24 hours or so with a team of wonderful penguin rangers. Otherwise, keep tuning in and we will definitely get back to you. So Michael, let's have a question from the audience.
So Jessica asked, do the penguins molt in their burrows? So what if they haven't got a burrow yet? In particular asking because the females don't dig their burrows. So what do they do when the females molt?
Yeah, good question, Jessica. So do the penguins molt? That's very layered question. I think I've seen Jessica posting a fair bit, and she seems to know quite a lot about penguins, so I'm very excited to answer this question for you, Jessica. So yeah, penguins do, if they are deciding to molt, so that's a process they do kind of at the end of summer, start of autumn. So February or March, around about that time. And every single year, penguins lose and replace all their feathers, so you're never going to see a penguin with grey feathers. It looks like, I wonder if that's a shell gritter, just a little bit up here. You can see she's kind of looking at, sorry, I'm going to get back to your question, Jessica. I just wanted to, I get very distracted. Yeah, she's definitely not hanging out with the group. I think she's on a little bit of a mission to find little bits of shell and rocks that she can consume. Make her eggshells nice and strong. All right. Let's go back to the big mob of penguins, the big waddle of penguins, and I'll keep answering that question. So yeah, no grey feathers for these penguins. So a 1-year-old penguin and a 26-year-old penguin could theoretically look exactly the same. But the question was, do they molt in their burrow? That was the first one. So yes, they do, absolutely. They have to spend about 2.5 to 3 weeks on land and lose and replace all of their feathers in that time, which means that, oh, did you see that one poo? That's going to beautifully segue after I answer your question, Jessica, into the next story that I have about poo, and I'm sure you're all waiting for it. So yeah, they do have to molt in their burrow where it's nice and safe, because when they're on land, it's really, really important that they stay sheltered from any predators flying around during the day, because when they're in the ocean, remember, they can camouflage very, very well on the surface of the water, but on land, they have to be sheltered. So yes, they will quite often, most of the time, molt in either the nest boxes or the actual burrow that they've dug for themselves. But we have actually also found evidence of penguins kind of having a molting spot. So kind of like a holiday home, but for penguins, because when it's really, really hot here in Australia on Phillip Island in late February, early March, so, and molting, they're not eating. It's a really hot and itchy process. The penguins are double their weight. The blood vessels rise to the top of their skin, and as the old feathers start falling out and the new ones start pushing through, it's a very uncomfortable, very itchy process. So they're hot, they're hungry, they're irritable, they're uncomfortable. So we have found little spots that aren't actually burrows, but it might just be like kind of a tree branch that's fallen over, and the penguins have just found a nice little shelter under there where there's lots of breeze coming through. So even though they're not technically in a burrow, they can still be sheltered but also get that airflow, which usually they wouldn't be able to do in their natural burrows or in the nest boxes as well. So yeah, usually that's kind of what happens in for female penguins if they don't have if they haven't dug a burrow, if they haven't partnered up with a male for that breeding season. But also we do have lots of kind of empty burrows all around the place. So there's more burrows than what there are penguin pairs. So even if it's a female who hasn't found a mate, she can go and find an empty box, one of those little wooden nest boxes, or an empty burrow that she can hang out in, and no one's going to bother her there unless the owners of that burrow come back and then kind of kick her out. So I hope that answers your question there, Jessica. Now, what you've probably all been waiting for, and that is for me to talk about penguin poo. So, Michael's just laughing at me over here. So we did just see a penguin pooing over here. I have lost sight of it, but that's okay. In fact, we have been looking at these guys for a little while, so I might just jump back to the beach and we'll see if we can see what's going on. So you've got a little bit of a different view. Looks like we've got stacks more penguins starting to come in. Is there anyone at the water's edge? Who's over here? Oh yeah, there's a few penguins over here. As it gets darker and darker, they don't have to have quite as big groups coming in. Can't get over how many bugs there are tonight. How crazy. Now, I reckon it's a little bit more interesting on the rocks. Let's head back over. Sorry everyone, hope I'm not making you seasick. Let's jump over to these ones over here. I'll give you a bit more of a zoomed out view. So, penguin poo. So we have finally collected all the poo samples that we needed for the breeding season. So if you've heard me talk about poos before, what we do is at each stage of the breeding season, so when there's pre-breeding birds, so when there's 2 penguins in a nest box, just before, we know there's been lots of mating, some shell gridding going on, so some female penguins heading down to the ocean. We know that they're going to lay some eggs soon. What we do is put like a little bit of cardboard out the front of their burrow, and Penguins, as you've seen, they do projectile poos. They have one of the highest velocity poos in the world, which is pretty impressive. So if they've decided to stay at home during the day, they'll face their bottom towards the entrance of the burrow, and they'll kind of like poop the poo kind of outside of their burrow to keep the inside of their burrow nice and clean. So what we do is we put this kind of like little bit of cardboard and we stick 2 pegs in it, and we go out the next day and see if there's any good samples. And I'm very happy to say that in the postcard, which is the final stage of breeding that we wanted to collect, oh, looks like we've got 2 shell gritters up on the highway over there. Yeah, we have our sample of 30. In fact, I think we've got 31. So we've got 1 extra that we needed, which is super exciting. And I brought a little prop along with me today because this is actually what we keep the poo in. So there's no poo in there at the moment. It's just a little vial, and what we do is we fill it kind of halfway with ethanol, and then we've got a little dissection kit with some kind of some scissors, some tweezers, some little spatula things, and we have to go along and use these tools and pick up the sample and then take the lid off and put the poo sample in this ethanol just over here, pop it in the freezer, and then we send it off to get analysed. And that's how we work out what the penguins have been eating in the last 24 hours or so. And you might have also heard me say, and Megan probably said it as well last night, that we've also been taking some blood samples, which tells us a little bit of a longer story, up to about 4 weeks, about what they've been eating, at what different trophic levels they've been eating. So whether they've been eating fish, krill, squid, and kind of the different kind of levels within the ecosystem and the food web out in the ocean. My gosh, so many bugs, that's insane. But as always, when you are dealing with penguin poo, I got absolutely covered. I think today I didn't wear my long sleeve shirt, which was 100% a mistake because my whole forearm was completely covered in poo, because you have to get right in there and get the pegs out. It's not a very nice process. But yeah, we've got enough samples from our pre-breeding from the penguins who were incubating their eggs, which was weeks and weeks ago now, from the stage where the chicks are in guard stage, which means the chicks have hatched and both mum and or dad have stayed at home to keep their little chickies nice and warm and safe. And then post-guard, which is when the parents have left them alone during the day and we're getting the chick poo, or when the parents come back to feed the chicks, we're getting their poo that they pooed the night before. So very, very exciting news, and we're looking forward to seeing what they've been eating very shortly. So awesome. And you know what? I've got another thing that I wanted to say. I told you this would go on longer than 20 minutes, everyone. I actually saw a snake out in the field today. So we have 1 species of snake here on Phillip Island, and that's the copperhead snake. And I think I said it on Monday as well, but they are in the top 10 deadliest snakes in the world. They are very, very venomous, but they're also quite shy snakes. So they don't like any confrontation. As soon as they kind of see any kind of big human walking around, as soon as they hear the vibrations of the footsteps, they're kind of out of there. It's only if you step on them or if you corner them that they start to get a little bit aggressive, which of course is totally fair enough. But even then, they are not a threat to our little penguins, at least that we've seen. We just saw a little bit earlier a penguin telling off a wallaby, which is, I don't know, like 30 times its size. And even though, of course, snakes are highly, highly venomous, they don't go for the penguins inside the penguin burrows because, one, the penguins are feisty, they will fight it, and because they are such a shy snake, they don't want to deal with that. And yeah, they don't go for the eggs either because the heads are quite small, but even if the snake did want to go for the eggs, mum and dad will be sitting on them all the time. So if the snake did try to go inside the burrow, it would be met with a very, very sharp beak. 2 more shell gritters, 4 more shell gritters up in the top corner. Look at them go. What was I saying? Snakes. Yes, so they don't eat the eggs because the parents are protecting them. We have seen, snakes within the colony, but yeah, they don't ever bother the penguins because my money would be on penguins 100% of the time. There definitely are snakes that would eat eggs, just not the copperheads that we have here on Phillip Island. So again, when you are coming to visit us, it is likely that you might see a snake out and about during the summer. That said, in the 2.5 years that I've lived here, I think I've only probably ever seen 10 snakes, and they've always slithered away from me whenever I've been nearby. So as long as you stick to the paths and you don't try to agitate them or anything, they won't bother you or the penguins. So very, very lucky. Alrighty, I think everyone, we'll probably better start wrapping it up now, otherwise I will be here with you all night, but we might have one final question from the audience, and then I will tell you a little bit more about penguins, maybe, say a few more things, and then we'll, oh, there's a Rakali. Oh no, I'm too slow, come back. It was just a little native water rat. Where'd you go? Can we see it anymore? Again, not a threat to the penguins. No, never mind. All right, sorry Michael, let's have a question.
No worries. We just had lots of people just saying how vibrant and alive you come when you're talking about poo and how excited you get, which is so funny. So good.
I know, I've become the poo girl.
So have we noticed any behavioural changes in the penguins in the colonies since there have been no visitors?
Oh, okay. Have we noticed any changes in behaviour of the penguins in the colony since we've had no visitors? So I remember hearing some of the people who were actually counting penguins on the first night that we had no visitors, and the penguins were so just put off. They were so nervous. They were really kind of looking around, and they came in a little bit later than normal. So we still have the lights on for them to keep it consistent because the penguins have grown up with the lights in the area. But the penguins really weren't sure what was going on when there was no people. So they did kind of get a little bit used to not having any people around. But yeah, it's interesting. Since we've slowly kind of had people back, the penguins, they kind of, from at least this is kind of anecdotally, so it's not scientific fact, this is just kind of my opinion and what I've observed, is if you're kind of walking on the boardwalk at night, they kind of stop and have a look at you, whereas previously they would have kind of just kept on walking, but they're not really scared or anything. So as long as you're staying in the boardwalks, you're staying behind the fence, you're not trying to touch them, making too much noise or anything like that, they might just kind of stop and have a look at you. Otherwise, they'll just keep on going. So yeah, since we've invited 50 people back, it looks like we're going to have a slow kind of incremental increase in people, which will probably be very good for us, the rangers who haven't had to deal with guests for months and months and months. Let's now jump onto the highway really quickly as we watch these guys come by. But yeah, good for us, the rangers, and also good for the penguins as well. So they slowly get more and more used to having people around. We're not going to say that the penguins miss the people. I personally think they don't really care. But yeah, it'll kind of be just like in nature. There's always things changing. So they'll be like, oh yeah, there's a bit of a change. These guys are back again. My gosh, so many shell gritters tonight. That's awesome. That's well and truly over 10, I think. So what about you, Michael? Have you seen any kind of changes in the colony, or kind of similar thing?
Yeah, similar thing. So when we're walking down, the penguins seem to be a little bit shyer. Not so used to people at the moment, but I'm sure though they adapt, I think, to their surroundings. So when they when the visitors come again, they'll just see that as another normal. So
yeah. Well put, Michael. Perfect. Look at this guy just having a bit of a groom, making himself nice and beautiful. So yeah, we are again very, very excited to welcome you back very, very shortly to the Penguin Parade. Again, remember to book because we want to make sure that you are kind of turning up and you've got a ticket and you can come in. We don't want to kind of turn you away, so really, really important that you do book, especially now when there's only a maximum of 50 people. But if you are making your way to the Penguin Parade, again, just making sure you're listening to the range, just staying nice and quiet, keeping phones and cameras in your pocket so that you're not accidentally having a flash going off or encouraging someone else to do the same. And yeah, just if you do spot a penguin that's looking a little bit nervous, just stay nice and still and they go, oh yeah, okay, cool, we're fine.
They're pretty inquisitive, aren't they?
They are really inquisitive, yeah, absolutely, especially at the Penguin Parade because they've grown up their whole lives having people here. So yeah, super excited to have you back. And if you have been watching the live stream and you do come visit us and you recognise some of our faces, make sure you come up and say hi and say huck, 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 because they'll absolutely love it. But yeah, I think it's probably time that Michael and I say goodnight because I think I've gone fair bit
That's
over
all
time.
right.
That's all right. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. We're really excited to have you back very shortly. One thing I haven't said tonight is if you can't make your way to the Penguin Parade shortly and you want to help us protect these little guys, you can adopt a penguin or become a penguin pal. Jump on to the Penguin Foundation link, which is in the description below, and there's a whole range of options that you can choose from to help support us and all the work that we do here on Phillip Island. And yeah, happy NAIDOC week to everyone out there. I hope you're getting involved in some of the events and celebrations of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture. And again, thanks again to everyone who has put in the comments their respect and their acknowledgement of the lands that they're joining us from today as well. Hopefully every kind of day we'll be able to tell you a little bit more about NAIDOC week and the Bunurong people here on Phillip Island that we call Malau. But that's about all from me tonight, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed. Michael, anything you want to say before we head off tonight?
Thank you for all your information. We've had lots of good responses, so you did a great job tonight, Jordan. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for all your input as well. So yeah, that's all from us tonight. Tune in tomorrow night, and I think you'll be here with Megan. Are you working?
Yeah, I'm here tomorrow night as
You're
well.
here tomorrow night as well. Beautiful. You'll be here with Eminem, with Michael and Michael and Megan tomorrow. So make sure you save up all those questions for them. But before we leave, we're going to do our signature huck off, and I'm going to rope Michael into doing that as well. So bye everyone. Have a good night. Huck, huck.